Hi everyone, and welcome to video number 30 on USA conflict. Now, the first videos 1 to 29, they provided you with the detail, the knowledge, the information, the facts that you need to face the exam. This video, ladies and gentlemen, it's the first in a series of 2, and it's going to actually study the exam and hopefully help you to prepare for the exam on USA conflict. First of all, a few mentions about the exam. 80 minutes long, 52 marks, split into 2 sections, Section A and Section B. Roughly, Section A should take you about 25 minutes. Section B, roughly about 55 minutes. There are 6 questions in all, and you answer all 6, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this video will look at the first 3 questions. Question number 1 is all about inference. What does infer mean? It means what you can work out, what you can suggest by looking at evidence. Here's an example. They're mine. What can you infer from that? Well, you might say, well, I think this person likes to run. Second piece of evidence. That's mine. Now, if you look carefully, you'll see, let's get it the right way round, Humber Bridge Half Marathon 2007. What can you infer from this evidence? Put it together with the trainers, and you could say that this person likes to take part in organised runs and finishes 534th and gets a medal. So use the evidence to find things out, make suggestions. Now, the first question, it says, give 2 things you can infer from source A. 4 marks, no more than 5 to 6, 7 minutes maximum. Be quite clear and straightforward. What can I infer? This source suggests, and then you pick something out. You pick a detail from the source. This tells me this. Quote from the evidence or describe a bit of a photograph if that's what they've used. Give the proof to support your inference, what you are suggesting based on the evidence. 2 things. 2 marks for the first one, 2 marks for the second one. Do not waste any more time on that. 4 marks, fairly easy to get 4 out of 4. Let's move on to more difficult questions. Question 2 is always a causation question. Explain why. Give reasons. 12 marks. I would suggest you spend round about 20 minutes on this. Explain why something happened. Now, here's a question from a question 2 type style. Explain why the Montgomery bus bike boycott was a success. They give you 2 clues, 2 hints, 2 things that you can use. First one, leadership of Martin Luther King. Second one, media publicity. And it will say you must also use your own information. Well, if you are doing a question on the Montgomery bus boycott, you'd go back and look at my videos number 5 and 6. That's where the information is. To get the 12 marks, 3 paragraphs, 3 causes. Remember, you are explaining why, so you're giving 3. 2 from the actual clues they've given you. You should use those clues. And then 1 from your own information. If it helps you, write a PEE paragraph, point, example, explain. So, let's take that question. Explain why the Montgomery bus boycott was a success. And we're looking at the leadership of Martin Luther King. Well, here's your point. Martin Luther King was vital to the success of the Montgomery bus boycott. He was a very good speaker, but he also helped with organisation. That's your point. Your example? He was involved with the Montgomery Improvement Association, working with church groups to arrange a carpool system, a car share. Martin Luther King himself contacted Lloyd's of London to arrange the insurance for the car share. Your example of why he was important. Then your explanation. This helped because the boycott was now much more organised. It could carry on for almost 1 year, not just 1 day. Black people could get to work. As it was over a long period of time, this put more pressure on the bus company. So you've given your point, your example, and your explanation for Martin Luther King's leadership. Then you repeat exactly the same for the second point, which was media publicity. Then you choose your own information. It could be, for example, finance. Explain how the protesters received financial support from other parts of America, and the bus company were losing up to 30,000 fares per day. So that is how you build an answer for your question 2. All the time, link it back to the question. Use phrases like these, ladies and gentlemen. This helps to explain why the boycott was a success. The boycott was a success because. If you use phrases like that, you are focused keenly on the question and you won't be waffling, wasting your time, because you've got to focus on the question. So that's question 2, a causation question. That's section A. Now let's move to section B. There are 4 questions in section B: 3A, 3B, 3C and 3D. In this video, I'll just concentrate on 3A for the rest of the video, and then the next video I'll look at the other questions. Question 3A is all about utility. 8 marks, about 12 minutes. What do we mean, utility? How useful are 2 sources of evidence? Usefulness. How useful is the evidence? For example, here's a question. How useful are sources B and C for a particular event? Example, the United States opposition to the Vietnam War. Now, to get good marks here, we want 8 out of 8. You must write about the provenance of the source of evidence. What do we mean by that historical word, provenance? Well, to help you, ladies and gentlemen, think of NOPCON. NOPCON. Now, what do we mean? N for nature, the nature of the evidence. What type of evidence is it? Is it a photograph? Is it a speech? Is it a newspaper? Is it from a history book? O, origin. Who produced it? At what time? Was it at the time of the event, or was it later? Is it an eyewitness? The origin of the evidence. P, purpose. What's the purpose? Why was it produced? Was it to give facts? Was it to persuade? Is it propaganda? Is it a lie? Is it a cover-up? Is it to give someone's opinion? What's the purpose of the evidence? Now, the con is content and context. Now, what's the difference? Content, what does the evidence tell us or show us? What actual detail or facts, statistics, information is involved in the evidence? Context, what was happening at that particular time? So NOPCON gives you a framework to base your answer around for this question on utility. How useful are sources B and C? Now let's have a look. See if we can explain that in a bit more detail. How useful are 2 sources? You must write about both, using NOPCON for both sources, and then give your judgment. Remember, you are asked how useful, so you have to say Oh, it is very useful, quite useful. This one maybe is more useful than that. So you've got to write about why it's useful, but also think about maybe what is missing, what limitations are there in the evidence, why sometimes it might not be totally useful. Let's have a look at an example. Here's one. How useful is source B as in an inquiry into United States opposition to the Vietnam War? Now, source B is this, ladies and gentlemen. It's taken from a student protest song. Hey, hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today? That's the evidence. How useful is that as a piece of evidence in an inquiry into United States opposition to the Vietnam War? NOPCON. What's the nature of that evidence? Well, it's a protest song. It's a slogan sung by students at marches. The origin? It's sung in the 1960s when the Vietnam War was going on, when LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson, was President of America. That's the origin. What's the purpose of it? To show people that were singing it and their opposition to the war. Because, here's the content, many young Americans were coming back in body bags. The soldiers were returning dead. Hey, hey, LBJ, how many kids have you killed today? Many of the American soldiers were very, very young, the same age as the students, if not younger. So there's the content. And what's the context? Putting pressure on the president to actually do something. And in the end, he decided not to run to be president in the 1968 election. So there's a whole lot you can unpick from just that. Hey, hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today? Using our friend NOPCON. The nature of the evidence, the origin, the purpose, detail, and what was going on at the time. So how would you put that in a paragraph? Well, something like this. What do you think? Remember, how useful? On the whole, source B is quite useful because it shows there was opposition, particularly amongst students. It shows one reason for that opposition, the amount of United States casualties. And also it shows that this opposition must have had some impact and some effect, because as we know, President L.B. Johnson did not seek re-election. However, this source of evidence also has some limitations, which limits its usefulness in an inquiry into US opposition to the Vietnam War. See, I've linked it back to the question there. For example, it doesn't tell us the number of people involved in the protests. It doesn't tell us any other reasons for opposition, such as, for example, the power of the media showing things like the Tet Offensive, or the reaction to United States atrocities like the My Lai massacre. The evidence does not discuss that. Therefore, it cannot give us a completely useful stance into the inquiry into US opposition. However, it did have some use, and I've tried to show that in my answer. So there's the first three questions, ladies and gentlemen. Question A, inference, nice and straightforward. Question 2, causation, explaining why. Question 3A, all about usefulness of evidence. Now, our next video, and the very last one on United States conflict, I'll look at the second part of the exam. Question 3B, 3C, and 3D. So that's coming soon. Until then, it's about time I went off and did some running. See if I can finish 533rd in the Humber Bridge Half Marathon. Until next time, all the best. Hope it's been useful. See you soon. Bye now.